Namaste and welcome to our final asana practice in the chakra series, this one being the crown chakra. And so we're going to start by setting an intention, coming to a seat, or you can lie down and transition, but having a seat of some sort in a chair or on your mat or a cushion is ideal. Maybe having a bolster or a blanket that you can roll up and a block handy if you have some of those props. If not, that's okay too. We can make do without. But let's start by setting an intention. So come to a seat, let your hands just rest, close your eyes, connect to your breath. If you want to bring a hand to your belly and a hand to your heart, and just connect with your ujjayi breath here for a moment and begin to center and settle into your space. Let's take 3 breaths together, finding that deep belly breath. And letting each exhale ground you into this present moment. One more round of breath like this. Finding that connection with that restriction in your throat with your ujjayi breath. And then set an intention of vastness and limitless possibility for our crown chakra class today. Let's take a couple more breaths and breathe into that intention. And then we're going to do just one round of Kapata Bali breath, which is sometimes called skull shining breath. So it's great for clearing things out before we move into our practice, and it also brings some awareness into the head, into the skull for meditation, which we will do through our Yoga Nidra at the end of this class. So you can just, today if you wish to do it with your just hands on your thighs, that is fine. So we'll take a nice deep inhale together. Exhale everything out. And then we'll take another inhale to begin. And remember, this is this snap of the belly to force the exhale out. Keep going with your eyes closed. You might begin to feel some tingling in the forehead and the head itself. A few more rounds with your own pace. And then release, take a nice big inhale. At the top of your inhale, pause. Retain that inhale. Without force, without discomfort, just pausing at the top of that inhale a little bit longer if you're able. And then exhale everything out nice and slow. Keep exhaling, 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 maybe even dropping your chin as you exhale. And then come back to just a couple of rounds of belly breath with eyes closed. Feeling into your seat, into your intention of limitless, infinite possibility. And then from here, we will move onto our mat into child's pose. And for this child's pose, I'll invite you to, if it's appropriate for you, to bend the elbows and point the fingertips up to the sky, like our little antennas here. You can have your forehead resting on a blanket, on a block, or just on your yoga mat. So we're going to bring a little bit of a yin-like quality to this, and that we're going to stay here for a little bit with our ujjayi breath and breathe into any tightness. Might be your hips, might give you an opportunity to get into the back body, which is related to our unconscious mind in the system of yoga. If you need to roll up a blanket and put behind your knees to take some pressure off the knees, you can do that. Or just lift your hips a little bit higher. And come into the variation of child's pose that works for you. If bent elbows with fingers pointing up doesn't work, you can just bend your elbows and bring your palms down, forehead onto the back of your hands. And so this position is not only bringing a little bit of awareness to the head itself, but it draws our awareness inwards to our inner landscape. A couple more breaths here. And then I'll invite you to inhale and come up into tabletop. And we're just going to work a little bit in our tabletop position with extended table. So let's start by extending the right leg, and maybe your toes are down or maybe they're lifted. And maybe you extend your left arm, your opposite arm, and it might be, if that's too much, bring that hand down. You could also float that back leg up and have both hand and leg up. And if some part of your body is not working for this, you can place your hand down or you can place your foot down. But we really want to just lengthen here. Taking a nice big inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to draw knee and elbow toward one another. Curl up and release, just one. Let's do the same on the second side. Extend left leg out. If that feels okay, maybe you extend a right arm. Maybe you float that back leg up. Really lengthen here through your spine, through your elbow, through your fingertips. And as you exhale, draw it in. And release down. Let's come into a few rounds of cat-cow, bringing some movement into the spine, opening the back spine as we exhale and draw the belly in, and opening the front of the spine as we inhale. Let's do a couple more rounds. Just bringing awareness to that entire area of the spine where the energy systems of the chakras reside, from the base all the way up to the crown of the head. And as we exhale on this last one, let's move back into child's pose. And this time bringing your hands to come alongside your shins, your arms alongside your shins, and your hands to reach back to your heels. If you can't reach your heels, maybe you can grab your ankles or your shins. And we'll pause here in rabbit's pose for a moment, in child's pose for a moment, before we move into rabbit's pose. So if you're not familiar with rabbit pose from our child pose, you can just look up for a second. In child pose, I'm on my forehead. As I move into rabbit, I'm just lifting my hips, and as I do so, you'll notice I just roll onto the top of my head. So from the forehead in child's pose, we just roll onto the crown of our head into rabbit pose. And this also is a very reflective pose with eyes closed, drawing inwards, and also energy to the crown of the head. And then we can release down, rise back up into tabletop, and then lift the knees, moving into downward facing dog. So downward facing dog is a inversion on its own, where the head is lower than the heart, lower than the hips, and you can probably feel some of the energy coming into the head here. Let's take an inhale. And as we exhale, walk the feet to the top of the mat, inhaling to lift the heart, exhaling to bow down, bending the knees. Let's inhale and rise, and let's intertwine the fingers here and really reach up to the sky. So I've got my fingers intertwined, too close for you to see, and reaching up, 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 and looking up. So again, we're lengthening through that spine. Keep lengthening up, and then on an exhale, release. Bring your hands to your heart center. Come back into your mountain pose. And take a moment's pause here. So we're going to do some little more like moon salutations really than sun salutations. Again, a little softer practice, but we just want to get our body moving in all directions so that we can come into stillness more comfortably and release some tensions in the body. So as we inhale, slowly reach hands up, intertwine your fingers, press the palms up to the sky, maybe inviting a back bend as we lengthen the spine and make as much space as we can. And as we exhale, slowly bow to the earth. Let your inhale lift the heart. Hands can be on your shins or on blocks. And as we exhale, we step the right foot back into a lunge. I'm going to draw up that back knee and come into a low lunge. So you might stay with your hands on blocks here. You might bring your hands to your front knee, or you might reach up to the sky. And again, intertwine, press the palms up. And then as we exhale, bring the hands down, step it back, downward facing dog. And then we drop the knees, child's tabletop for cat-cow. Inhaling, opening the front spine. Exhaling, opening the back of the spine. And then sending the hips back into child's pose. And then staying low to the ground, we're going to slide forward and come into Sphinx pose, being really mindful as you slowly lower the pelvis down, keeping the spine long so you're not compressing into your low back in our Sphinx pose. From Sphinx, we're going to extend our arms straight out, bring your palms together into arrow pose. Forehead comes down to the mat, feet extend long. Bringing awareness to the forehead, to the front of the body, connected to the earth, and then slide the hands back under your shoulders, cobra pose. Taking an inhale and exhale, bring your forehead down. Press up and back, child's pose. Inhale, rise, tabletop. One round of cat-cow. The exhale takes us into down dog. Now we're going to step our right foot forward. You can step it wide if you need to, have hands on your blocks if you need to. Dropping that back knee. Rising up or keeping your hands on your blocks. Hands can stay on your front knee, or you might inhale up, intertwine the palms, up to the sky. Maybe we look up to that vast, infinite possibility of the sky above us. Take one more breath here. And then we exhale, hands come down. Let's lift the back knee and step forward, coming into our forward fold. In our forward fold, we can bring our hands to the back of our calves. We can thread our hands between our legs, bringing our palms to the front of our shins. And you might have your knees a little bit bent here. And let the top of the head spill down. And you can feel the energy and the blood coming into the head, preparing us for deeper thought. And then release. Lift halfway, hands to shins, blocks, or fingertips to your mat. Exhale, bow, bend the knees. And let's rise up, coming all the way up. Intertwine your hands, palms, reach up to the sky. Look up to that sky. And release, circle your hands to your heart center. Let's just take a couple breaths with eyes closed in our mountain pose. Nice big breaths here. And then we're going to come into eagle pose, which helps us to draw our focus and our intention, our attention inwards. So let's start with the arms being wide, our wings nice and wide. And we're just going to warm up the shoulders a little bit. Inhale nice and wide. Maybe you look up. As you exhale, wrap your right arm under your left and reach your fingertips. Hope I'm not squashing my microphone here. Reach your fingertips towards your shoulder blades. And then release, open wide. This time left arm comes under right. So we're just going to warm up a little bit with our breath. Inhaling wide, exhaling, wrapping around, and switching which arm is underneath with each breath. And now on this next one, we're going to bring our right arm under our left and wrap around. Now there's a couple of options for your eagle pose. You can have your elbows up, arms like this, hands to your shoulder, press the back of your hands together, or wrap around. So lots of options depending what your mobility is in your shoulders. So take an inhale here and we lift the heart a little bit, feeling a nice opening in the back of the body here. And then we sit down, face this way, and cross right leg over left. Now if you have your hands in such a position that you can bring a thumb to your forehead, go ahead and do that. If not, that's okay too. And so there's a couple of options here. I have my right toes just touching the mat to help me with balance here. I'm really looking for not to see how great your balance is, although we are working on balance in this pose. But it's really about drawing your focus inwards. So take one more breath upright. And as we exhale, we begin to draw everything to one pointed focus as we come down, elbows towards your knees or even towards your shins. Take one more breath here. And we slowly come back upright and spread our wings wide. And let's bring left arm under right this time. And same options here. Touch opposite shoulders. You can just have your hands apart, hands together, or wrapped around. And this time as we sit down, the left leg will come over the right. So as we sit, left comes over right. You might wrap around, you might use that toe to kind of help you with your balance here, lifting or touching down. We take an inhale here as we lift our heart, and then on the exhale, we begin to come to one pointed focus here, drawing inwards. Take one more breath here. And then we rise and open our wings wide, circle up, and draw into your heart center. Take a breath here. We're going to make our way down to the floor for some seated postures. Inhale, reach up to the sky, and exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway. And let's exhale, step back into downward facing dog. And then drop down to the knees. And we're going to move into pigeon pose. So you can move into pigeon pose right from here, from tabletop, by bringing right leg forward. Or you can move into it from downward facing dog. So if you get pain in your knee in your pigeon pose, I think I'm going to turn around because I'm getting out of my light. If you get knee pain in your pigeon pose, I'll invite you to roll onto your right hip. Make a 90 degree with your shin and your thigh on your mat. And then let this back leg be wherever it needs to be as you come into a sleeping pigeon shape. Now, if knee pain's not an issue, then you can come into your regular pigeon where this back thigh is facing straight down to your mat. So we get opening in the hip flexor at the same time as opening in that right hip. And then make your way down, letting the forehead rest on a block, on the back of your hands, folded hands. You can also use a bolster here, if you have one. So experiment with which shape of pigeon works best for you. And we're going to stay there for a little while. So find a comfortable variation of pigeon. You might also have a bolster under that right hip, or a block, or a rolled up blanket. But make it so that you have sensation but not pain, and can stay there for the next couple of minutes. And as you come into your pigeon, bring your thoughts back to your intention again of that limitless, infinite possibility. Find your breath. And try to release tensions from the body as you draw your awareness inwards. Let's have 3 more breaths in your pigeon pose here. Notice what's going on in your mind in this stillness and in this quietude. And then let's slowly begin to make our way up and back into either tabletop or straight back into downward facing dog, whichever pose you're working out of. And we move into our left side. So drawing left knee forward. And again, if you have knee pain on this side, roll onto that left hip. Your pigeon is going to look different, but it's going to work better for your body, so you're not stressing that knee. Otherwise, the rest of us will have that back thigh, the middle of the thigh facing down to the mat. And then finding your way down. This side's going to feel different. For me, this side's really tight. And so I might use a bolster here to support me. And find again that stillness. Find your breath, that place where you can stay and draw inwards. Bring your thoughts back to that intention once again, of limitless possibility, that infinite expansive sky. Take notice where your thoughts are going when you come into quiet and stillness. Three more breaths. And then we slowly begin to make your way back, either stopping in tabletop or stepping straight back to downward facing dog, stretching it out however you feel you need to. And then we're going to come into a seated pose. And this particular pose is called Janu Sirsasana, or heart to knee, and we're going to prop this up a little bit. So you can bring a bolster, rolled up blanket, a big cushion here. It might be across your your thighs here, depending on your mobility as to how far you're going to fold forward. But you might have something right here or right here, so that you have something that you can rest on so you're not suspended in midair. So take a moment, and that might be a bolster with some blocks to rest your head on right here. And I forgot my blocks are out of reach again. And so it might look like this, or you might have another cushion. So whatever works for your body, for your mobility, so that you're not in a position of strain. Because again, we're going to stay here kind of like a yin-like pose for a few breaths. Not quite yin, because we would keep you there for about 5 minutes if it was true yin. But that stillness and that going to that place where you have a little bit of sensation but not pain and can stay there. And then notice what goes on in the mind when you find that place. If your mind is really busy here, really going crazy, you can also bring your mind back to that intention and to the sound of your ujjayi breath here in this particular posture. Take 3 more breaths here. And then slowly begin to make your way up out of your posture, being mindful where your props might be falling. And then we'll come into center and go to the other side. And because one side's always a little different than the other, you might need to prop up a little differently for this side. So take a moment to move your props around, however it's going to work best for you. And experiment. Maybe your bolster is even like this. If you don't have a lot of space to fold forward, this can be really nice way to prop, especially if you have a bolster. If not, stack up some cushions, meditation cushions, rolled up blankets, and make this forward fold work for you on this side. Again, taking this opportunity to notice what's going on in the conscious mind, in that busy ego mind. What is it telling you as you come into stillness? Can you begin to calm those thoughts? Come back to your intention and to your breath. When we can calm our minds in this little bit of discomfort on our mat by using our breath and focusing our mind, it helps us to do the same when we are off our breath, when we are in some sort of emotional, mental, or physical discomfort out in our normal life. Three more breaths here. And then slowly come back up, straighten both legs out in front of you, and we're going to do a short forward fold with both legs straight out, just to balance everything out. And again, you can use your props here, bring your bolster right into your belly to fold over, stack a block to rest your forehead on, however works for your body, and then find that edge where you feel sensation but not pain. Oh, and also you can place a rolled up towel under the back of your knees to release a little tension in your hamstrings. And find your forward fold. And rather than thinking about getting your head to your shins or your knees, think about getting your heart towards your knees, so we keep the spine long and lifted as we fold forward, rather than a big curl trying to get as deep as we can, because that's not what's important. I said this one was going to be short, so we're just going to take 3 breaths here before we come up and out of our posture. And then slowly make your way up. Now, in the intro, if you listen to the intro, I said there's a couple of ways to access this idea of the crown chakra, one of them being headstand or handstand to bring more energy and blood flow to the head. The other is a more reflective inward physical practice to prepare for stillness after our practice. So, some of you may want to move into headstand now if that is in your practice, in your wheelhouse, and you want to move into that. You can go ahead and do that right now for a few minutes, and then move into a shavasana. Now, I'm going to suggest taking at least 3 minutes of shavasana, of just laying flat on your back and allowing the integration of the physical postures into your muscle memory before you switch to the Yoga Nidra, which I strongly suggest after this practice. So those of you going into headstand, go ahead and move into your headstand, making sure that you move into child's pose afterwards. Some of you, actually, I forgot we were going to do this. Some of you might want to move into teddy bear instead. Some of you are just going to lie down on your back with your knees bent. But you've got 3 options here: lying down, maybe moving into some gentle supine twists before your shavasana, or headstand if it's in your wheelhouse, or teddy bear, which we almost went into from our rabbit pose, but you can come back into child's pose. Hands to your heels. Roll up to the crown of your head to get a nice stretch, and then release your hands. Keep your head where it is. Make a triangle with your hands and your head, and then simply curl your toes under. Lift your knees. Bring your knees to your elbows, and you could stay here, or you might lift one foot and lift the other foot and come into teddy bear, bringing a little more energy to the crown. And when you're ready to release down, come back into child's pose for a few breaths to let the equilibrium of the blood flow. And then we will all make our way onto the back. If you're not already there, for some gentle spinal twists and a 3-minute shavasana before you move into Yoga Nidra. Maybe rocking and rolling a little bit of awareness to your back body. And then find a short shavasana here. Set your timer, put on a song. Let that short, gentle practice integrate into the body. Release your ujjayi breath here. Close the eyes. Let the body sink. Release, relax. stay there as long as you want, at least a couple more minutes. I will say namaste, and I will see you on your mat for Yoga Nidra in just a few minutes.